When's a win kind of not a win? When you struggle to put away a team like Maine. On today's show, Mitch and I are going to talk about the Eagles, a game that was close at times and not close at other times, and everything that happened in today's win, the first win of the season for Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Locked On BC, AJ Black here. Boston College, they get their first win of the season, defeating Maine 38-17. A game that was oddly close until the very end. You know, the Black Bears kind of stuck around, had some nice passes from their quarterback, and was able to force BC into some terrible field goal attempts that did not go well. We're going to get into all of that today. And as always, after games, I'm joined by Mitch Wolf. Mitch, how's it going?
Good to be 1-2. It's better than being 0-3. I'll say that.
Yeah, and there's some teams out there that are at 0.
You could even be a New Mexico State fan and be 0-4.
That's some special talent.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have to dig out from Doug Martin and Frank Spaziani for a couple of years before they figure that stuff out. But
yeah,
all right, let's look at this game. There was definitely some concerns, still clearly. But there was also some positives. Let's go with the Pollyanna view here and look at some of the positives that happened in this game. I have to say, for the most part, I know it's Maine, and this is always. I'm going to preface everything I say with this was Maine. So if I say something you don't agree with me later on and I don't mention it, just add because this is Maine to everything I said, and you get that point. But I thought the pass blocking was improved.
It definitely improved down the stretch. You could see the offensive line kind of gelling together. There was one up, and I think it was on one of the big passes, one of the 50-yard passes, where they really handled a stunt well. And like you said, it is Maine, but that's something they couldn't do the last 2 weeks, and they kind of figured it out this week. You know, I think they allowed 3 sacks. I'm pretty sure 2 of them were in the first half. There was only 1 in the second half, and I think it was on a third down where Phil was kind of stepping up trying to scramble. So, you know, you could kind of chalk that one up to more being a scramble play, so maybe it's not as bad. I mean, sack on the first play was obviously not great. The next one I know was on a third down. So, you know, Phil's trying to hold on to the ball, make a play, what have you. But yeah, I mean, I thought they pass blocked pretty well. You know, Phil had a lot of time to throw, especially as the game went on. That was good to see. So yeah, I mean, that again, it is Maine, but it's nice to see them do something they couldn't do the last few weeks.
Speaking of Phil in the pocket, did it seem like to you that he doesn't seem to tuck it and run anymore? He just
that's definitely the case. I think they really drilled it into we don't want you getting hurt, so you know, try to stay in the pocket, don't run out and scramble unless you absolutely have to. Which I think there were times he probably could have, and maybe some teams are just a little more keyed into not letting him do that to them. So I know they've had some designed runs for him. In the last 2 weeks. They obviously didn't call any of those today. But yeah, I think that's definitely been a point of emphasis this year to not a scramble much. And ideally it was to protect him, but they need to focus on the offensive line, just pass protecting better in terms of protecting him.
And then another thing that Mitch and I had talked about, and I think it was in my keys to the game, were turnovers. BC had 2 in this game, and both of them were down the stretch when they needed them most. One was a fumble recovery on 4th and 1 by Josh DeBerry, who had an interesting game. We can get into him in a little bit. And then an interception by Cam Arnold, who he's got some motor on him. He was fast running that ball back.
Yeah, I think Bill Maloney, our friend, he tweeted out Cam Arnold's the best running back on this team, which I was like, hey, like I wouldn't hate getting him some 2-way snaps, kind of like Miles Jack did back in the day for UCLA. They're kind of similar players. Yeah, I mean, I would say one of those turnovers counted. You know, obviously the Hail Mary interception at the end of the first half.
Oh, that's the other one I missed too.
That doesn't really count. Even the fumble on 4th doesn't really count because they stopped him anyways. So, you know, I chalk that up to being a good play for the defense, to stopping a 4th and 1 conversion attempt in the red zone. That's a great play. Don't really care about the fumble, but you know, Cam Arnold, you know, like the announcer said, like read that pass all the way, just floated right into the line of sight and picked it off and had a big return. Ultimately didn't lead to points directly, but you could play it out where gave BC good field position, They missed the field goal. Maine has bad field position. They punt. BC still has good field position. Then they get that final score to ice the game away.
And it was funny because I think you brought out the term a bunch of times of turnover luck. There, I don't know. Do you consider what happened with Elijah Jones and who was the other one that missed the wide open interception?
Blackwell. It was Blackwell and then Jones. No, interceptions are a little different.
Because that looked.
Yeah, I mean, Blackwell had a good read on that one. The Jones pick six. Like I said, going into the season, like before this season, Elijah Jones didn't have a single interception. So the guy's hands are just bad. There's a reason he's playing corner. So yeah, that one really sucked for him because you could tell he just saw daylight in front of him, was like, I'm taking this back, and just didn't secure the catch. But yeah, that was kind of a shame. But yeah, I mean, good to see them get that turnover when it really mattered. I tweeted that out. BC needs a real turnover here, and then my stream was a few plays behind, so I might have tweeted that out as it happened. But then Cam Arnold gets that big interception, and that was huge to get the result that happened.
All right, now if you are listening to this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now. We're on our drive to 600 subscribers. We're up to about 510 now. Really want to get to 600 before the start of the basketball season. So hit subscribe right now. Mitch and I are going to do these as many games as we can. I'm going to start. I'm going to, I think, Louisville and Clemson at home in the next couple of weeks. So I'm not sure what we'll do then, but we'll talk about that later. Now, in a moment, Mitch and I are going to get into some of our concerns because there's definitely some concerns leaving this game, and the warm, comfy conditions of playing an FCS squad are going out the window after this week, and we'll get into what those look like. This episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to spice up college football season. It's easy to play. You can win cold hard cash in a single game, and it's so much fun. I was playing this for regular Thursday night football, and you pick the over-unders for different players. They give you the number. You pick the over-under, and you can win easily up to 10 times on any ticket. So through Underdog's Pick'em's game, you look for your favorite player stats, pick whether you think they'll be higher or lower, and you can win actually up to 20 times. Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com with the promo code Locked On, and you'll get your first deposit doubled up to $100. It's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On. All right, so Mitch, this game was close. It was a 2-score game, but Maine was barking on they were banging on the door all the way to the end of this game. It didn't feel like the type of win you want against an FCS squad, like that kind of, going away easy win where you can take out Jurkovec. It just seemed like they just kind of hung there, and their quarterback, Fiano,
I think it is.
He's a tough dude. Guy took some big time hits, and he kept getting back up and leading them on some big drives. What are your concerns after this game?
So, the the 3 games, we kind of see a major failure in the 3 phases of the game. First phase of the game, you kind of argue the offensive line failed as well, but you see the defense fail at the end of the game. Against Virginia Tech, you see the offense fail throughout the game. And in this game, you see the special teams completely fail. So obviously 2 missed field goals of decreasing distance. Leighton somehow makes the 40-plus yarder and misses the 38 and 29 yarder. And the 29 yarder was the worst miss, one of the worst misses I've ever seen that wasn't blocked. That's very concerning. They need to get Danny Longman off punts. It's time. I get that they bring in Kendati to, have the short punts for more accuracy. Longman only averaged, and I think they attributed one of Kendati's punts to Longman in the final stats because that was a good punt. They were in, pretty good field position, so he had to pin it inside the 20, which he did. But Longman's punts are just not getting, even putting the shank aside, they're just not getting enough distance. Like, it's going up in the area. There's no return. That's nice, but these punts are just not good enough. Like, they're giving the other team too good at field position at this point. So they need to make a change there. Obviously Maine has that big kick return that sets them up for a touchdown. That's not good. Again, I'm not super well versed in special teams strategy and how to, because the film is hard to find. So I'm not sure exactly how you fix that. Sometimes things just happen and that's not good and they burn you. So you don't want that to happen as much. That's really the first good kick return we've seen BC give up this year. So maybe this is a one-time thing, but special teams was just an unmitigated disaster this game.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, the one positive I would take away from the special teams was that we actually had a punt returner this game.
I'll say that's true. The return game on the BC side is pretty decent. You know, Jalen Gill had some nice kick returns. Him and Zay had nice punt returns. Jaden had one kick return which didn't get past the 20, so that's not great. But yeah, I mean, the return game is solid. I don't think you're really going to see too many incredibly explosive plays on that side. So, but yeah, I mean, the rest of the special teams was just awful.
Now, the defense, Maine put up 17 points. They had 370 yards, which is not good. Did you leave concerned with how they were playing out there, or do you just think, Maine was playing with an extra chip on their shoulder and just did well?
So I do want to give some credit to Maine. They came out very hot in this game. They really wanted to be there. They really wanted to give BC their best shot possible. That resulted in some chippy play, which was interesting to see. But I'm not super concerned with the defense. Again, if they get put in short field situations, it's a problem. We saw that with the bad punt and then the kick return. Those are the two drives they allowed points in the first half. So, the touchdown that they allowed after I think that was the bad punt. Or was that the kick return? I can't remember. Anyways, that touchdown they allowed, that's a good throw. The guy beat Woodbay. That's, you don't love to see that. That's not good. And then they got the field goal on the other drive. So, like Hafley said going into halftime, like they essentially spotted them 10 points, which I would agree in that estimation. The other drive, Maine puts a drive together. That was just a really good drive from them. They got some great plays on third down from Fayano. I tweeted this out, like the stats don't tell the full story for him. And that's how I looked at it going into the game, because his stats weren't that great. Like, he didn't complete 50% of his passes. He threw 2 picks, one of which didn't really matter, but like, the dude's a baller. And like, he was playing, at least a third of this game hurt after getting tackled kind of funky. He was clear he was limping on that ankle, but guy was just throwing dimes while getting blasted especially on third downs. His receivers made plays. So, I don't love to see it, obviously, but I'm happy that the defense, did only hold them to one legitimate scoring drive where they drove the length of the field. And, even on that final touchdown play, I think it was Jones had a beat on the receiver and just kind of got out of position. And then the guy was able to twist into the end zone. So,
Yep.
They caught them on some funky plays. Like, they had that flea flicker that the guy caught as Fayano was throwing off his back foot and turned that into a big gain. And apparently Randy Moss's kid is on Maine, which if I had known that, I would have, even before they changed line, I would have absolutely put money on Maine if I knew Randy Moss's kid was playing for Maine.
Yeah. And that I was surprised with that, because he had another son that played for LSU, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think he's either on the Bengals practice squad or on their IR right now.
Oh, right. Okay. Yep. Thaddeus Moss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So when we're talking about this game, one thing that stood out to me was again the struggles of the running game, and the stats I don't think are going to dictate how ineffective it was at times. But again, it just felt like for a good portion of this game, they were getting -1 yards, -2 yards. Now, Garwo got, and we'll use the term garbage time. He got a garbage time touchdown for 30 yards that really kind of padded his stats quite nicely. But overall, I just felt like the runs were not there again. So before you get to that, if you're listening to this right now, you have some comments, hit the comment section. Leave us your thoughts. Mitch and I will get to them in a moment. So if you have a thought about the game, an observation, we'd love to hear about it. Leave it in the comment section. We'll address them in a moment. But Mitch, the run game, what was your thoughts on that?
So, a lot of tweets were going out about the run game from various outlets. And for this game, you can kind of make the statistics from the run game into any narrative you want. So on one hand, BC has 33 rushes for 111 yards. So that averages out to 3.4 yards per attempt. So, get over 100 yards. That's nice. You get 3 rushing touchdowns. That's nice. But you only average 3.4 yards per carry. Not so great. But if you take out the sack yardage, so essentially you're looking only at designed runs for BC's offense, that gets you down to 29 carries, 128 yards, which I think is about a 4.6 yards per carry on average for all the runners. That's pretty good. I think you saw some good plays from Cam Barfield and Alex Broom, being able to, get through some pretty small gaps in the line and, make some plays, get into the second level. I really was impressed by Alex Broom again.
Mhm.
And then Pat Garwo did get going. And like once the game wore down, kind of like I said, he's kind of like that volume shooter guy who just the more carries you give him, the better he gets because the defense wears down. Again, there were plenty of times where the blocking just wasn't there and they got tackled for loss. And so with Garwo, like you can kind of make whatever argument you want. So right side, 17 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry. Great. Problem is you take that 30-yard run at the end of the game away, you get 16 carries for 48 yards, exactly 3 yards a carry. So again, not ideal. So it's kind of whatever narrative you want it to fill. I think that you did see better plays from the offensive line, both when they were running zone schemes, when they were running gap schemes, just abilities to get where they needed to go and properly block their man. Now, again, this is Maine, so that is part of it. They're going to naturally better. And there were still plenty of plays where they just weren't getting a push whatsoever, especially early in the game. So this is still a major concern. Hopefully, hope to God they get Ozzy Trujillo back next week. And if not, if they don't have him back in time for Clemson, Phil Jurkovec might literally die on the field because Clemson's defensive front is going to kill him if Nick Thomas, a former preferred walk-on, going up against Miles Murphy, a possible top 5 pick in the NFL draft, and KJ Henry, definitely going to be an NFL player. Sorry, but that's a recipe for death on the field.
Yeah, it's a bit of hyperbole, but only a little bit, right?
I would not be shocked if like Phil has to leave the game at least once if Nick Thomas is playing left tackle during that game. Like he is going to get murdered.
But yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Like I wanted to go into this game feeling like the offensive line took a step forward, and I feel confident that they did.
That's good. I definitely would agree with that because again, like there were still players they weren't getting what they wanted, but I think there were enough plays to be like to show them, hey, like this is what you need to do right. This is good tape. Like keep doing this. And again, obviously the quality of opponents is going to increase, but like keep doing this and we can work something out because again, I'm still quite impressed with John McNulty's offense. I like some, even like one of the later drives where they had Phil take a deep shot down the sideline on 1st and 10 when they were backed up in their own end zone. Like it didn't work, Phil wasn't perfect in this game as a thrower by any means, but there does seem to be a general plan and theme to how this offense is being run for the most part. I thought at one point that he kind of devolved into, all right, we're not putting new stuff on tape. They ran a lot of the same plays. But like I tweeted out, the man has a great sense of just when to call a running back screen because the one time he hit it against Rutgers for a big gain. He hit it in this game once to get them out of a 3rd and long. So I really do like the offense they're creating. Unfortunately, just the offensive line is letting it down.
Yeah. But again, like what I've said to some people and when I'm talking about this offensive line is you can't just snap your fingers and expect them to be good. No. Like that's just it's not feasible. Like they're not going to magically, you're going to fix something. And all of a sudden it's going to be like, whoa, the offensive line is back to being great. And, or it is great. It has to take steps and you have to take baby steps to get to that. And I think that's what they did this week. They had, was it perfect? No, but was it a disaster? Was Phil on his face through most of the game? No. And that was positive. And he had time to make his reads. They saw some stuff with the running backs and the running game. That step, I think, is so crucial for this offensive line. And again, it's going to be a whole different animal next week when you play against a speed defense like Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
But so this is the first win of the season, and it's Maine, but it's a place to start. You know what I mean? It's where BC can kind of build some things off of this win. What are your takeaways from this game, Mitch? Like, what are your 3 big takeaways?
My first is that if the offensive line is gonna get better, like I said, this is good tape to put out. They figured things out in both zone, gap, pass block. Like you could find a number of plays where all the problems they had it looked like they improved. And like we've said, it is Maine, but you have to start somewhere, especially after the last 2 weeks they've had. So that's my first takeaway is that this offensive line is, I think this is a step in the right direction. And that's really all I can say. Like, at least they didn't take a step backwards against Maine. My second takeaway is probably that like this defense is going to be good, but the offense does need to help them. And apparently the special teams also needs to help them by not setting them up in poor situations because, and I guess this is kind of, I won't make this my third takeaway as a cop out, but like, I think this team has its defensive ends of the future in Nito Ekpala and Donovan Ezraku, who both had big games. Ekpala, not as much, but he drew a hold, which if he hadn't been held, he would have sacked the quarterback, and he's made a lot of nice plays the last 2 weeks. So I'm really impressed by his play, even though those two guys are quite undersized. Third takeaway is, this team needs to find a way to play a complete game, all three phases of the ball. I'm not sure it's going to come next week on the road at Florida State. Are they home against Louisville after that, or is that?
Yeah, it's at home at Louisville and at home against Clemson.
So I think that Louisville is a game to circle because Louisville's a very difficult team to figure out. They just lost to Florida State, even though Florida State lost their quarterback, their best defensive lineman, actually two of their best defensive linemen. And Louisville's a very hard team to figure out. BC gets that game at home, so that's the one. Like if they can by some miracle pull it out against Florida State now that Jordan Travis is probably going to be out, that'd be fantastic. But I don't imagine they'll play a complete game next week. Maybe against Louisville, maybe you get Ozzie Trapilo back, and you can finally put something together where all three phases play well together, and then you get Clemson after that, and you're gonna have to pull out a real miracle there. But maybe you can at least kind of be like lose that game with grace, if you will.
Yeah, and the Florida
my Rutgers prediction is not looking great, John. I know.
I said this earlier this week. I'm glad that Mitch saw it before I put it up there. I asked for folks to put stuff in the comment section. It's been kind of quiet out there.
Yeah,
the first comment we get
on the East Coast
is Rutgers fans. I mean, I love the pettiness of these fans because it's 3 weeks ago, and they're still in our comment section hammering us with this stuff. It's like I don't care.
Yeah, man. I mean, we were wrong. You guys were better than us. Congrats.
Yep. So, Florida State, it sounds like Jordan Travis is coming back. He tweeted something.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Good for him as a player and everything, but that's not good for the BC defense because, I mean, last year mobile quarterbacks absolutely shredded them. They haven't really had the opportunity to play one in terms of one that's really going to hurt them on the ground. So, I mean, if Travis is back, and it seems to be like he's kind of figured it out as a passer this year too. So that could be a real bad sign for BC.
Yep. Now, back to John in our comment section. If you're listening, we have a Rutgers fan right now chirping at us. We were petty first. No, we actually did analysis of the game and thought things about BC, and then you just don't agree with it. So you were listening.
Yeah, I admit it. Like I was wrong. Like I thought BC's offensive line was going to be better. I didn't think Rutgers' defensive line was as good, and like that was just my analysis. So I was wrong. You were right. Sorry.
Yep. So thanks for coming by, John, and we love having you here. So, so Florida State's going to have him back. I don't know what the deal with what's it, Verse, the defensive end from Albany,
Jared Verse, and I think it was Fabian Lovett, the defensive tackle, who's a really good player. Yeah.
There's also a possibility this game could be a ranked game. Way Florida State's playing.
True. I mean, Florida State is like
they're good.
I mean, they've been cursed last few years. Now they've kind of flipped it around. I feel like there's I guess they played Duquesne, but like there's a pretty easily conceivable world where they're 1-2 going into this game.
Yeah. Yep. And I saw some folks tweeting about how Mike Norvell loses these games in years past, and now he's starting to win them. That's all it takes for some coaches, right? Like,
yeah, winning those. It's happening for him. Didn't happen for Scott Frost.
Nope. All right, Mitch. Well, we're gonna wrap this one up because it's 11:30 where I'm at, and I got a kid probably waking up in about 5 or 6 hours. I need to get some sleep. So where can people follow you on social media?
You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolfe, WOLFE.
All right, and my name's AJ Black. You can follow me on Twitter at AJ_BC. I'll be back again tomorrow to talk more about this game, kind of dive in and look at some of the stars and figure out what happened, and we'll get into that again tomorrow. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.